Wow, Caleb. Wow. Wow.
Oh my
Wow.
god. Oh my god.
Oh
that was
my God.
so good.
Dude. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
All as planned.
This is all as planned because, as you
So-
can see, there was a problem because the stream was out of balance. We had
Oh!
video,
Oh!
but no audio.
Oh my god.
Right? It's an issue.
Oh my god. You're a genius.
Yeah.
This was all
Keikaku.
Kakudori. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Oh my god. That was funny. Hey, if any of you know what we said during that, like if any of you can guess what
props
we
to you.
said, I'll just gift you a sub. I'll just gift you a sub right out the gate. If you happen to already have a sub, well then too bad. But yeah. Quick, someone hire voice actors to sub them. Oh my god, we have a lot of new follows coming in. So let me shout them all out real quick. Let's do that.
Yes. Whoa, that is a
But
lot.
yeah,
that
y'all,
is
welcome,
quite a few.
welcome. Oh my god, yeah, so many. Miniman956, Nate's outside voice with the sub and the sub and the follow.
Thank you.
Celestial Apprentice, Kataru, Hisoka, someone else. Let's see. We got VP72, US Navy 7, Charlie the 99, Banana Spice Latte, Grey Blade, Pantaray, Cold Blood, Mr. Reto, Lante, Lisa GB, Chibi Remy, Crunchy 7, Trees LX, Daluju, Chidaruma, Gur H97, Adsinoti, and thank you all so much for the follows. And
Yes.
then Destron with the 6 months of Twitch Prime. Have been able to catch the streams due to work, but finally had a Monday off. Yeah.
Yes. Glad to
Yeah.
have you here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They said Caleb is pregnant, but how do I get Grigante?
How to get preggers.
How do get Perger when are quarantined?
Yeah. So
Oh my god, that's actually a
Balance.
really freaky thing. The idea of their birth rates just around the world just dropping in general just around this time. Or would
Or
it actually
going up.
spike?
I don't know.
Actually, it might spike. That's actually a really
Yeah, I feel like it's going to have a spike somewhere.
It's gonna
where,
be
whether
out
it
of
will
balance.
be whether it will be during quarantine or after quarantine, I don't know. But something's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
yeah, possibly.
But that is kind of a good tie-in because balance, the whole idea of balance. All our lives have kind of been thrown out of balance
Uh-huh.
by this happening, right?
Yep.
That's sort of part of the inspiration for us talking about this because anime really does have some wonderful lessons on balance.
Yeah, and balance in general is something that is in of itself not a hard defined specific thing. It applies differently to all kinds of stuff. And it is a very personal subject in that we all try to find our own semblance, if you will, of balance amidst just life's just general chaos. And
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be tight. It can be something that, you know, is,
Yeah.
is an act of going back and forth. You know,
Right. It's
constantly going-
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dynamic. That's a great way to say it. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But how are y'all doing today?
Yeah. Good to see you all here.
SOS Bros Book 4 Balance. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Basically.
I actually called back when book 2 was finishing up. Legend
that
of Korra.
Book 4 would be Balance.
That book 4 would be called Balance because they were going to run out of name titles and then they would want to end it on Balance. And I was like, I don't really care what the third book is going to be called. It could be called whatever, but I know that book 4 will be called Balance.
And it
Because
was.
It was kind of the main point of Korra's character. Yeah, that whole debacle. But here we go.
Oh,
A
right.
semblance of sanity, if you will. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just
Yep.
try not to follow the Jedi definition for balance. We all know how that went. That is very true. In some
Right.
ways, the fact that the Jedi code so focused on negatives, meaning like there is no this, there is no that, there is no this, it's
It was
out of balance.
out of balance, if
Yeah.
you will. Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So it makes it rather fitting that then, things didn't go so well.
Cthulhu-kun, yes, exactly. And we have basically the initial part of this is basically we're just going to talk about Iroh for a little bit.
Yep.
Before we do that, though, we got to give a shout out to one of our VIP patrons, one of the ones that has supported us for such a long time.
Yep, and
But
in very unique ways, too.
Yes, it's been quite. I can't think of a pun for this, but Waluigi!
Wah!
Thank you so much for your support. It
Yes.
means a lot, and
Really
it's really
appreciate
cool to
you.
have you as a member of our VIP
Yes.
patron tier. So
We
thank you very
still
much.
think very fondly of all those times that you would just comment "Wah!" on our posts. Yeah.
Yeah, those were quite the times. Yes,
Indeed.
indeed. Oh my goodness.
But
So,
yeah,
yeah.
balance.
Let's talk about balance, and we're going to share a few personal stories along how each of these anime kind of, or not necessarily just anime, one specific show that you knew we had to mention in here when it came to balance.
Yep.
And kind of the ways that they've affected us. And we'd like to hear some stories from you guys as well. Like, what are the areas in which you found maybe some type of balance amidst just the craziness of all this? Or some ways in which you had to learn tough lessons regarding balance in life because of just crazy things that happened and stuff. But first off, Avatar Last Airbenders,
Yep.
Uncle Iroh, probably one of the best mentor characters in animated fiction
Oh yeah.
ever.
Yep.
Unapologetically, like, just have no problem saying that he is my favorite mentor character ever. Like, just
He
in
really
general.
is just so awesome. And
Yeah.
and I feel like we can't talk about Iroh without also talking about Zuko because they're a package deal. They balance each other, if you will, with
Yeah.
Zuko being the one that was out of balance, Iroh being the one that was in balance. Boom. Absolutely excellent dynamic.
Right.
Probably my favorite single like duo character dynamic out there.
Yeah.
Like it's so good, right?
Yeah,
We don't need to say it. You know it. If you don't know it, watch the show.
Yes.
And you will find out. It's incredible.
It was one of the funny things I found recently was, you know, I'm not a big fan anymore, really, of Rotten Tomatoes as a review site.
Oh, uh-huh.
But all of the Avatar Last Airbender books are 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Of course they are.
Because that's perfectly balanced.
Right. Yep.
Yes. But Avatar Last Airbender has a character in it that is kind of the old sage mentor, and his name is Iroh. He was voiced by the same voice actor who played Aku in Samurai Jack.
That's right.
The late voice actor who passed away in the middle of actually the third season of recording.
Right.
For Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was a big deal. But his character helped along probably one of the best characters in the story's arcs to conclusion because that character started off as a really angry, overly emotional, really intense, out of balance character.
Right. And it's something where one of the reasons why we were thinking, okay, let's talk about balance with regards to anime is because it's pretty rare for Western media to focus on balance in the same way.
That's true.
Because usually there will be elements of balance that need to be found, but it won't be like the end all be all goal, right? It won't be the climactic conclusion where you know the story is resolved because the character has found balance.
Yep.
You know, if you're in like a revenge story, it'll be, yes, I made sure that the revenge didn't take over me, but I still killed the person in the end, right? Because that was the thing that needed to happen. It wasn't that I needed to resolve the feelings within myself about, you know, whatever the thing was that happened that made me need revenge.
Yeah.
So Avatar: The Last Airbender, though, that's one of the big standout examples of Western media that goes into balance, probably because of a lot of the inspiration by Eastern media.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
And Iroh he's the best example that I can think of, certainly my personal favorite on this topic, because who hasn't like gotten some life lessons from Iroh along the way? Even if it was one that you already sort of knew, you know, that gentle reminder while he sipped on a cup of tea.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up Iroh specifically is that while Zuko is the one that goes down the character arc from being the imbalanced character to having balance found by the end of the story, it is one where when you look at the way Uncle Iroh gives advice, and this is something that I wanted to start off with this, is that Iroh is the one primarily giving advice throughout the story. But if you are familiar with the story of Uncle Iroh, you know that he is actually one of the characters that is bearing the most pain. The most direct, horrific, really brutal pain of losing someone really close to him. Someone that you should never really have to say goodbye to as a father,
Right.
and that's his son. And over the course of the story, you realize that this guy is giving so much to Zuko, but maybe he himself is also still on his own journey of balance. And I think that's the point of it, is that Jacob and I are not going to sit here and be sage masters and give you guys like tremendous life-changing advice
Right.
or something as if we know anything special. No, if anything, we're all on our own journey of balance, and it's that we can each have our own perspectives where we highlight something that we're like, ooh, I can see something really important in this that could bring balance, not just into my life, but maybe someone else is sharing a similar experience.
Yeah.
And Iroh, who, once we see him alone, for one of the few times in the actual story where he is alone, he ends up having a little ceremony for his son, and it's one of the most like iconic moments in
Yep.
animation and stuff, for just a way to make you instantly cry, and you realize how quickly that emotion comes to bear.
Right.
So
And it's
yeah, you can help someone else even if you need help yourself.
right. And that's the thing that I think made that scene so powerful, because we care about Iroh, way before this moment, right? He's a fantastic character. The idea that if he would be feeling pain, then of course we would feel that pain as well.
Absolutely.
But it was how much he had found a balance within that pain to be able to help other people, so many other people that were complete strangers to
Yeah.
him, on this day where he is dealing with the most grief.
Yeah.
Because
it's beautiful.
that's what being in balance can do.
Yep.
And it's beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, Perkins, exactly. You're bringing up the exact episode. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I love also the fact that Iroh specifically gives advice in different ways. He is
Sure.
not always calm. He is not always giving the advice with just, really impactful like one-liners and stuff. Sometimes he's meandering about a conversation, like with Toph, for instance.
Yep.
Sometimes he's really raising his voice and yelling out his nephew because his nephew is doing something stupid in that moment there,
Right.
like in Lake Laogai. I've
Yep.
been like a proponent of Avatar: The Last Airbender for a long time, but I love rewatching these key scenes with Iroh where he's not being his typical quirky old guy self, where he gives little wise bits of things there, or maybe just some comedy, where he kind of, goes a little bit intense. In some ways you could say he's
Sure.
out of balance at that point. But then the things that he's giving is actually just pointing really hard and direct at the balance that character might need.
Right. And one of the things that I think helps separate Iroh as a character and as a mentor figure from a lot of the other, like, usually they're portrayed as more of the bad examples of the mentor figures, where it's the overly stern person, the mentor figure that just gives the one kind of advice, the
Right.
one way of doing things, the one approach to things, right?
Yep.
And usually that's where then the next generation has to sort of replace them. Has to show them that there's more ways of doing things, has to show them that there is a possibility for balance, right?
Yeah.
That they have gone out of balance in their attempt to maybe even be helpful.
Right.
And in Iroh's case, it's so completely the opposite of that.
Yeah.
There are so many times where he could be trying to help Zuko more directly, no, Zuko, do this, you're not doing the right thing, whatever, etc., right? But he's so utterly accepting of Zuko that he doesn't have that problem, right?
Yeah.
And then we get things like, Zuko getting brought back because of a smelly old sandal, and
Yeah.
them talking in the tent.
Yeah, there's a
Because-
lot of great moments like that, Ameju and Cthulhu, and yeah. Oh yeah. There's a word in Swedish we have called lagom. It means neither too much nor too little. It's a word for the Goldilocks zone. Oh, nice.
Cool.
I think the phrase itself is a good takeaway for the understanding of what balance is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But yeah, that's our main non-anime example.
Right.
Like, is there anything else you really want to say on?
No, I think
that
I just
topic?
wanted to preface it because in some ways it's important to bring up in that when we are talking about these things here, we're not talking about this from a place of certainty or that you guys
Sure.
need to incorporate every single bit of the things in which we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
In that there might be something that you glean from this, but there might not.
Right.
So if anything,
Certain things work for people and certain things don't.
right. If anything, find, in your own life or in your own walk or journey or what have you, the balance that you're looking for, see what can apply and what doesn't in that regard.
Right.
And then this kind of segues over to the next part, I would say, rather well, and that is that we're talking a bit about a semi-philosophical topic of conversation with regards to balance, because it's not something that can be hard defined by just the definition of it's equal. But let's actually get into what is a little bit equal in this regard here.
Sure.
With Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's equivalent exchange, y'all.
Yeah, like
How can we talk about balance in anime without the most easily
Ingrained,
rememberable,
like,
ingrained phrase regarding balance? Alchemy, the study of matter.
right, exactly. Nothing can be gained without first sacrificing something of equal value in return. This is the first law, this is the law of equivalent exchange.
What
all
could
that.
equal the value of a human soul?
Right.
Yeah.
It's something that goes beyond being a theme in Brotherhood and turns into a plot point, right? Like that's how big of a deal it's made to be in that show.
Yep.
And yet it is still a theme, right? It's not just, equivalent exchange, we need to figure out how to solve these puzzles because balance. It's no. What is balance? And again, what does it look like when people get out of balance?
Yep.
What does it look like when someone is in balance?
Yeah, FMA is a little bit more on the nose about it. Yeah, but FMA is also a little bit more on the consequences side of things, about how when something is out of balance, how it spirals out of control in a really strong way. I would say FMAB might simplify it a little bit, but I think that's where we can talk about some of the earlier stuff in the story, specifically with the teacher leaving them on the island. So, one of the things that was important in that lesson that I really connected with in a really strong way when I first watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, because I watched FMAB way after it came out. I got into anime back in 2011 or 2010 or something like that. And I just watched Bleach then. It took me a year or so before I watched Death Note next or a couple others. But Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood I think was around the 5th or the 10th anime that I watched. And it was around 2012, maybe 2013.
Okay.
It was around Attack on Titan time.
Gotcha.
Because Attack on Titan was pretty early for me as far as anime goes in that regard. So with this story, I didn't actually resonate as much with the direct mechanics of the balance. It was the idea of when you sacrificed something left you and went out into the environment.
Right.
But then the environment would give something back to you because of that exchange. Now, I didn't necessarily see in my life some hard law about how this was a science or something. But the fantastical implications of it led to a big focus in my life regarding the idea of connection. And that's that, and Avatar reinforced this a little bit as well, but that everything is connected. So, when they were, trying to not die, they ended up eating the ants. And then because they ended up eating the ants, they were able to then, survive in that regard. So when we as human beings are trying to figure out our place or what have you, or just try to find balance, just understanding how connected you are to your environment and the people or beings in it can lead to some really cool enlightening moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite bit for balance from FMAB was a bit more towards the finale, actually, where we get to see someone very much out of balance, and what kind of consequences there are for that. And that's a very particular fight scene that involves Roy Mustang.
Sure.
And that is something where, even this character was so aware of the importance of balance that they told someone, if it seems like I'm too imbalanced, please shoot me.
Please shoot me, yeah.
Right? Because that's a problem. That's a very serious problem.
Yep.
And, well, they get to the point where they're about that imbalanced.
Yep.
And it needs to be dealt with. And it's not comfortable.
Nope.
It's hard, right? And, afterwards, the character kind of ends up taking a step back and being like, oh, that almost happened. Okay.
Right. And he has this moment of, look at what I did again. I hurt you.
Right.
I think that's back to my thing of the whole thing of everyone being connected, is that when you value the relationships of the people in your life, you realize that the actions that you take have some effect on them. Now, you're not controlling them in any way, just knowing that when you choose to be in a relationship with people, the actions that you do have ripple effects that rely on you basically taking some responsibility for what you do. But what that also means is that there's this wonderful opportunity for you and the people that you're connected with to grow beyond just what you would be individually.
Sure. Yeah. Whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's something that, especially in like, or at least from what I've seen in America, there can be this this almost like praising of imbalance. Because like there's the imbalance that's sort of societally acceptable and then not societally acceptable, right? And sometimes like when you think of like the idea of the workaholic, for instance, right? Who cares about balance? Throw everything else aside and do that thing that you decide to be worth it enough in order to sacrifice all these other things for it. But and when we look at people that do that, oftentimes we'll see the thing that they do because of the great imbalance, right? That was maybe a conscious decision or something for them, right? But we don't see all of the imbalances that are sort of beneath the curtain as a result of that. And that's another thing that I love that is brought up in anime, but we'll get to the specific anime that delves into that a bit later.
Yeah, if anything, I think what we can talk about now is a little bit regarding some of the anime that we're currently watching.
Sure.
And just some of the ways in which we've seen some really cool, like, individual, like, mini stories within the overall stories that kind of stand out to us. One of the ones that is really doing a number on me, so I'm not going to give spoilers just for the sake of y'all that haven't seen it, but for those of you that have watched Anohana, you can very easily see where the subject of balance can come up.
Right, just with the premise of the show.
Not just regards to the premise of the show, but just any of the characters. Just take any one character and pull them out of the cast and be like, there's some balance issues in this cast here. Because the thing that I think in some ways I knew a lot personally before I watched Anohana, because I watched it, way after you did. So I had already gone through a lot of stuff in this regard. And in some ways the channel pushes me to that anyway.
Sure.
And that is that Anohana's big lesson, I think, is taking time to process your feelings rather than ignoring them.
Okay.
One of the big aspects of imbalance regarding a lot of the characters is that they don't focus or take time to deal with their feelings. And thus a lot of pain comes up regarding that.
The whole show is happening because all of them in some way or other are way out of balance. Yep.
Yeah, and there's no way to know when something is imbalanced in that regard. Is that IBG music? Yeah, I would say that's something that you have to know personally.
Right, for yourself.
It's not really our job as human beings to go and point at
you're
other
out
people
of balance
and go, you're out of balance in that regard. Unless they're literally like a really, really close person in your life.
Right, and basically say like, hey,
And ask questions. Don't make statements in that regard.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Anohana, I would say the way that would be like really powerful for me personally is there's a lot of stuff that I dealt with my mom's sickness over the course of the last decade or so that are feelings that I hadn't processed like much at all.
Sure.
Because it's not like there's just one feeling of sadness and that's where it all is incorporated into. It's like, no, there's probably about a dozen different feelings regarding that I may have only dealt with 6 of, you know. So finding time and in some ways asking for help to be like, I need help processing my feelings regarding this, and I don't know even all the feelings that are there regarding it. So I'm going to need help digging that kind of stuff up so it can be dealt with and brought into some sort of balance.
Right, because we all have our own strengths and weaknesses and things like that, right? And in a lot of ways, even if we can't necessarily find balance ourselves within ourselves, because that's sort of the ideal, right? Zen master mode, all of that stuff. But if we're not there, well, one of the things that can help is you find people around you that compliment you. And not compliment you like, just not like say, yeah, you're awesome, but no, complement, like are different from you. So that way you cover for each other's weaknesses and blind spots.
Yep.
So that way, if you are a bit out of balance, maybe they can help, pull you back in.
Right. One of the other shows that kind of segues nicely into this is the recent stuff that's been going on in Hajime no Ippo
Yes.
with Takamura.
Yep.
We recently went through an amazing section of Hajime
God.
no Ippo where they focused on the character of Takamura. I'm not going to go into any spoilers or details here, but there's a character that is put in opposition against Takamura, who is a perfect parallel of our character,
Yep.
but also has the point of being out of balance.
Right.
But their aspect of lack of balance only serves to highlight in some ways how out of balance Takamura also is.
Right. And
Because they're very similar in certain ways.
yep. And by doing that, then we're able to see, oh yeah, Takamura, you're out of balance. But you're not. But you're different than this guy. And the way that you're different from this guy is that you have other people near you that hopefully, even if unsuccessfully, in some
Right.
regards, can help to balance you out.
Yep.
And that's why the antagonist in this particular part of Ippo with that amazing fight is such a good antagonist in my mind.
Yep.
Is because he parallels Takamura, but he is beyond Takamura in the way that he is utterly out of balance,
Yep.
right? And he's praised for it. It's another one of those situations where it's yes, you're out of balance and we love it. There are a bunch of people that, hate you for it, but
Totally.
at the same time all the accolades and the money and the fame and everything, because isn't this incredible to see this person that's so out of balance?
Yeah. They've completely dedicated to themselves to that, to the point where they've become known and are legendary for that aspect of themselves.
Yep.
Now, in some ways, devotion to a singular cause, skill, talent, and all that's pretty impressive.
commendable.
Yeah, that's commendable. But when you realize that you've come to a point where you are not even fully satisfied within yourself while doing the thing that you are getting that satisfaction from, maybe there's something wrong with what you're doing there.
Yeah,
and I loved that in some ways this character got a lot of satisfaction over the course of the mini arc, if you will. But in the end, no, didn't find it. They might have to reevaluate everything from here on out. But the visual that they use in the show is really good as well, in that they talk about how in Ippo a lot there's a lot of power in the fist of a boxer.
Yeah.
Basically saying that this boxer is bringing in a lot of weight to their punches because they have a lot of reason to be here. But when it comes down to it in the fight, there's a really cool moment where the hands basically that support Takamura basically keep him up to show that while there might be a lot of weight in your fists,
That's not the only weight.
yeah, you're gonna need some other weight coming in to counterbalance that so that you don't
fall.
You don't fall.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful. So highly recommend checking out Hajime no Ippo if you
Yes.
you haven't yet. But
In a lot of ways, that kind of extreme imbalance, because yes, making sacrifices in order to attain something worthwhile, right? That's good stuff. That's good stuff. But within balance, and if it loses balance, it can get downright Faustian in the kinds of things that you will need to give up in order to get that thing that you really want.
Yeah, definitely.
And stories are a great way to sort of highlight that.
Right, because you can cut away a lot of the chaff of what makes for just real life, so you can focus on the thing that's really important, and it makes things a little bit simpler. But it does allow, I would say, for the themes to be given that proper magnification and focus on specifically.
Because most of the times when we see people that are, out of balance in some traditionally commendable way, we just don't see the other sides to it.
Sure.
Because otherwise they wouldn't be getting commended, so much for being out of balance.
Totally. Like that third person omniscient perspective in a story can really help with that, because then you can get inside the head of the character that you might have just completely hated because you never really got to understand who they were as a person. You only saw their actions from your perspective.
Right.
That kind of segues pretty well into a character that Jacob and I very much have very strong feelings regarding from one of your favorite movies.
Oh, Oh, right. Yes. So you're talking about A Silent Voice, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So A Silent Voice is one of my favorite movies, right? Big surprise. Y'all know
Yeah.
that, right?
Get Avatar: The Last Airbender out of the way and Silent Voice out of the way.
Exactly.
Always be talking about these two.
But one of the reasons that I love A Silent Voice so much is how it handles the characters. And yeah, no surprise there, right? I love the two main characters. They're fantastic. It's incredible, right? But I really love how they deal with the antagonistic characters
Yeah.
because with as tense as the emotions can get in A Silent Voice, right? I'm really glad that it didn't turn into something where it was just sort of the bad characters are just the bad characters because they're bad people and blah, 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 blah,
Right.
and all that stuff. And then it doesn't lend itself to understanding, which misunderstanding and imbalance with that, if you will, is what caused the trouble in the first place, right? You had a girl who had an imbalanced situation in school, and then you had kids in the school who had an imbalanced response to that, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, something happened that forced balance
Yeah.
to the main character,
Yeah.
and it just about destroyed them,
Yeah.
right? And then the whole story comes about as a result of that.
Yep.
And a particular character, frick, what was her name? Ueno. Black-haired McBitchface. Like I hate her. I hate her. And
Oh
yet
my God.
And yet I absolutely love her as a character.
She is one of the most hateable characters.
Yes,
you
because
could ever see. Yeah.
because to contrast her with Kawaii, who I hate even more, Ueno doesn't really change over the course of the movie.
Yep.
At the end of the movie, she's still basically the same sort of unlikable person that she was at the beginning, right? She hasn't changed on some fundamental level. And this is one of the areas that I think that anime in general differs a lot from Western media. If I were to expect to see a movie like basically A Silent Voice, but in Western media, Ueno would completely change by the end of the story.
Yep.
Or
whether she needed to or should have
or wanted to or whatever. Or
whatever.
if she didn't, then there would be some kind of defeat of her, right?
some vilification
Exactly.
to make us realize, yeah, and she deserved all that.
Yep,
yeah.
exactly, right. She gets her just desserts, you know.
Yeah.
But no, that's the whole point behind the main character, right? Like, well, are you sure you really want that? That sounds like just a bunch of imbalance that sort of is the swing back effect for the original imbalance.
Uh-huh.
So Ueno, at the end, the most that happens is that she insults Shoko in sign language,
Yep.
right? She's still insulting her. She's still being awful.
Yep.
Oh, but she learned just enough to actually communicate, to adjust a little bit, right?
Yep.
To find that sort of resolution within herself where she found internal balance. So then a lot of the barbs that she brought out to bear on the outside didn't need to be there as much, but they were still there. She was still a really prickly kind of person, right? Like that didn't change. That didn't change.
Yep.
But somehow it made it for me, it made for such a much more satisfying ending and resolution to her character rather than one of the other ways that I would have expected a character like her to get resolved in Western media.
Right. One of the things that I think is important when it comes to balance with regards to how you interact with those who are unlikable in that regard. We see a really powerful theme of forgiveness in A Silent Voice,
Yes.
which is in some ways probably one of the most difficult topics to bring up regarding A Silent Voice. And it's the idea that on some level, you don't know where the forgiveness really lands fully by the end of the movie.
And where it should land.
And where it should land.
Yeah.
Because should is such a loaded word in general. So in this regard, it is in some ways about moving on. There's an aspect of that, yeah, Ueno did all those things. Yeah, she didn't get justice or get, what she deserved, if you will, for any of that. But in that regard, the characters don't need to punish her, don't need to give anything back to her in some equal measure.
Right.
That'd
just be retaliation.
There's no eye for an eye nonsense here.
Exactly.
And I think in that respect, this is one of the things about internal balance that I really got a lot from A Silent Voice was that there's a lot that the main two characters suffer throughout this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the other characters who are responsible for that suffering don't end the movie getting suddenly like, horrific, consequences to their lives because of those things that
I
they
was
did.
so wrong, could you ever forgive me, kind of a thing. No. Nope.
Yeah. So, in this respect, I find it to be really powerful that while the world might be awful, painful, and full of nasty people, you can still find balance in the midst of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can still find balance after, say, well, in the case of our main character, Shoya, after being as awful as you were, right? That doesn't have a hold on you. That doesn't change you.
Yep.
Like that's just something that happened, and you can't change it. But who are you going to be today?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Like that's
Same. Live 19 999. Thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. Estelinian and Fanged Fish. Thank you so much for the follows.
Yes, thank you.
So with moving on though, one of the things that I think is a really powerful example of this in an anime that we are currently watching, and also with an arc within that anime that we kind of just finished recently, is Noragami.
Oh, yeah.
Noragami is a show that I really was surprised by how much I ended up liking the emotional journeys of the main characters. And we're coming up on the end of season 1 right now. But one of the big journeys with, I would say, the third of the 3 main characters is them basically coming to terms with the fact that they are no longer connected to their past.
Right.
However, their past is still connected to them. And they need to basically resolve that by, in some ways, dividing, separating, maybe even going out of balance. There's that worry that the character, based on the mechanics of the story, which I'm not going to go too much into, their lack of balance spills over and affects other people's balance in that regard. Because of the tight relationship mechanics within the story, it's able to hyper focus on this connection aspect that I brought up in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So I really resonated with the idea that when someone's balance is disrupted, it affects those around you. And you're not responsible for those people, but you are responsible for the fact that the things that you do can have some effect there. But don't worry about that as like a burden or something. Lean on them, lean on those people around you, ask for help, be vulnerable. But because of the way the show went, it went all the way to the last wire. Like, it went down to the final, minute before everything went horribly wrong.
Right.
Before some measure of balance was
achieved. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the way only fiction can.
Exactly.
To just wonderfully highlight it. Because in a lot of ways, in Noragami, it was something where the character was so worried about being out of balance that they focused on the imbalance, which just made it worse, rather than realizing, oh, hey, I might be in a different place now, right? I might not be able to go back to the way things were, but I do have something pretty good here.
Yeah.
Like, I do have people here that care about me and all of that, even if it's, I don't get to say go to school and things like that.
Right. And sometimes balance is about letting go.
Sure.
Cycronia was talking down there about having toxic family members. That's a great example of that. I one time had to help a buddy of mine deal with the fact that his parents were basically being squatters in his home and wouldn't leave or support or do anything.
Oh,
and
shoot.
It was one of those really toxic relationships where he was having to deal with the fact that his parents, who he's wanting to help, were basically just sapping and draining all the life out of him to where he couldn't end up getting like a girlfriend or anything like that. He couldn't end up like figuring out a way to make them self-sustaining so that they could help themselves. And there was no reason as to why they couldn't. They just chose to leech off of him. And it was like years and years of stuff before he was able to finally figure out a way to just cut them off completely. And yet they didn't end up just magically solving their problems or anything. They still like blame him to this day for the whole thing. So there are times where you need to literally take the sword, essentially, like in Noragami, and just borderline and
Right,
be like,
because-
I need to protect myself. I need to completely cut this off and let go of it and run the risk of the lack of balance that you'll have from that, maybe that tether that you've gotten familiar and comfortable with. And it's scary. It's scary, but it is so much better when you're doing it with friends and people that care about you around you. And that's in Noragami, they have that. And it's such a beautiful moment when they're all crying and just leaning on each other and stuff because they made it through it. And even people that you wouldn't have expected to help in that situation came around them, because it wasn't just, in this case, Yukine, that was the one suffering here. Yato was suffering too. So it ended up becoming a thing where both parties, both friends on both accounts, came in to help the two of them together. And I loved that episode so much. But
Yeah.
oh my god.
Balance and lack of balance is contagious. And that Noragami has some really good mechanics in like the plot and the story to highlight it, right?
Yep.
This is a very stupid comparison analogy here that I'm going to make. But so Fall Guys.
Oh my god. All right, go ahead.
You know that stupid seesaw map, right? The reason that it's a problem is because things get out of balance. And because of the people around you, you might be doing everything right in order to have it go back to balance. But because there are a bunch of people near you that are just
tugging on you
for some reason, just dedicated to making sure that it stays out of balance.
I think you're traumatized by Seesaw Map.
A little bit. It doesn't work. And eventually there might come a point where you need to find a different seesaw, right?
Oh my god, that's funny. I love that the salt emoji is coming up. I remember hearing you like raging about Seesaw Map and stuff like that. Yeah, the problem is other people, not me.
Right, and that's why, you want to make sure that there's balance within yourself, because,
Right, because then you might end up just blaming
you might
other
just
people.
right, exactly,
when it
because
was
you
really
might be the
your
person.
fault.
Right, exactly. But oh
Literature
man,
professor, it's a metaphor.
right. I don't know why I thought of that right now, but
is really
but
funny.
like that just popped into my head, and I was
God,
like, that kind of sort of fits.
That's really funny.
And the thing is that I'll bet everyone else that would be on that seesaw was saying the exact same kinds of things that I was, right? Oh my God, these idiots! Why are you throwing it out of balance, right? Well,
That's amazing. Yeah, Miguel, exactly. What a good time to tune in. And speaking about what are one of the results of things when you go out of balance, a show that I'm sure most of you might not have seen. Like,
But
some of you
need
have,
to fix it.
but you need to
Real
fix that
good.
because this show, while the art might not be to your liking, this show is an amazing look on a character
fantastic.
study of what it is like when people lose balance. And we're going to be talking about another sports anime that just is it's so good.
So good.
Ping Pong the animation, y'all.
Yep.
This
Like-
show nails the aspect of what happens when you focus on, I would say at the beginning, more about 3 specific characters, and the ways in which they start out of balance and find some measure of that,
Sure.
and then lose it, and then find it again, and then sometimes losing it again.
It's this crazy, seesaw.
Yeah, if you will.
But
Right?
like, and the thing is that, okay, so there are so many things I want to say about Ping Pong, but like, all right, tons of characters. It managed to balance them rather well.
Yeah.
And this is the show that I was talking about when I was talking about the idea of societally acceptable ways to be out of balance.
Yes.
Ippo is another great example with, that whole fight with the 2 hawks.
Yes.
But it's something where we see in a lot of different ways in this show. Like it's almost like the show itself just revolves around this concept of what it's like when you're out of balance, why people go out of balance,
Why?
right? Because there are some pretty strong, compelling arguments and reasons that, that Faustian deal looks real good.
It looks really good.
It looks real good. And some people aren't even successful at doing the Faustian deal, right? And then that causes all kinds of other problems.
Yeah.
Right. But like, so with Tsukimoto, right?
One of our main characters.
Right, one of our main characters, one of, right? Because Hoshino or Peko,
Yeah.
you are amazing, and I love you.
Oh my God.
Like Peko, in my mind, is the true seesaw in this show
He
as far
is.
as balance, right?
Yep.
Because you see how he's totally out of balance, but it hasn't caused any real trouble yet, and then all of a sudden, boom, some catalyst, some surprise comes his way, and everything's thrown out of balance. His world's
Yep.
upside down. What does he do?
Yep.
What does he do? Right?
Oh my God.
And then on the outside, it starts to show just how imbalanced he was on the inside, right? And then you've got Tsukimoto, who like,
Yeah, he's not anywhere near the fulcrum or the balance thing. He's just sitting,
Mm-hmm.
watching in some ways Peko being on the seesaw, teetering
Right.
back and forth, and just kind of going, wow, he's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
How is he able to do that?
yeah,
I
and
don't even feel like I can play with that for fear I'll probably, hurt myself or something.
right, like, so my personal hands down favorite episode from Ping Pong, and
Oh,
and this is an
wow.
episode that like I tell people about this episode, and they'll think like I'm talking about the whole show. I'm like, no, this is done all in one episode.
Yep.
And I would say that it's worth watching this whole show just to watch this episode.
Yeah.
But that episode, funnily enough, is in the exact middle of this 11 episode series,
true. Yep.
in which they show how all these characters are in balance or out of balance,
Yeah.
mostly out of balance. And what better way to do that than have it be on Christmas?
Yep.
When we start to see, and because Christmas, it's all about what really matters most. And then we see for a lot of these characters what really does matter most. And it's
And
chilling.
it's
It's
really
sad.
sad.
It's, it's
Oh, it's so sad.
these characters that where we're like, wow, they are such badasses. And then we see them on Christmas and we're like, oh honey,
no. Oh,
dude,
no.
dude, come on.
Oh, my
come
heart
on.
is breaking.
You can turn this around. You can fix this. Come on. You can do it.
Maybe they don't want to.
But maybe they don't want to.
Or maybe they don't feel like they can.
Yeah, or they don't feel like they can, or they don't feel like they need to. They don't see the problem,
Yep.
And then there are all these other people from the outside looking in that even if they have maybe more sort of forgettable lives, right?
Sure.
Like no one really knows about them.
Yeah.
They do have more balanced lives,
Yeah.
and they look in, sometimes literally looking through the window and seeing this person.
Yeah. I still remember those scenes. They're so powerful.
God,
Ping Pong,
like-
the animation in 22 minutes or whatever the length of that episode was, took me through more emotional roller coasters for all these characters, giving basically that almost silent look at what their lives are really like outside of the arena of ping pong, or regarding the relationships that we've seen them have in the professional kind of sphere, taking them into their personal lives. And this is something that I think ping pong really gives any of those people that have some kind of a dichotomy between their professional focus and their personal focus. Really, really make sure that you're being true to yourself in both. Otherwise, one will consume the other.
Right.
And you will regret it
God.
later.
Like-
it might take you time to even notice that it happened, but it is terrifying. Like, even just being completely real with you, even just at the idea of having a YouTube channel and having like a really, really cool life with regards to sharing a lot with you guys, having a really cool just way to interact with a large community of people around something I'm really passionate about. If I'm not careful regarding like how I balance the two, one just ends up being consumed by the other.
Yep.
I don't even notice it until it's been like 6 months, and I'm
Right.
like, holy crap, I need to sleep more. Or, oh my God, I need
When
to
was
make
the last
sure
time
that
I
I'm...
saw my parents? Like,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Like
Yep.
the stuff like that. It's really oof. And Ping Pong the animation just encapsulates like all that, sometimes in just one episode.
right.
And it's an 11 episode series, so you owe it to yourself to watch this show, even if you don't like the art, because one of the characters I almost guarantee will resonate with you.
Like,
Oh.
I think my personal favorite from that show is not actually the two main characters, but it's Kong,
Oh,
who,
Kong,
who
yeah.
is set up originally as sort of the antagonist rival, like, oh, I'm this, cocky badass and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that part where, he's hanging out with his mom around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And because of stuff, he's not feeling too great right now.
Nope.
He's not feeling too great.
Nope.
And he really just wants to hang out with his mom.
Yeah.
But then some of his not even really friends
Right.
come and hang out. And
Potentially taking away time that he would have with his mom.
exactly, who
And you're
hasn't
like,
seen in a while. And it's like, oh, come on. And he's like, nope, nope. You don't. I don't want these people here. I don't want them to take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see what he's gained.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's gained some things. He's lost some things. But, it all kind of balances out.
Oh.
And
I hope we don't go too much into spoilers here to where you guys are like, okay, I kind of get the gist. I don't need to watch it now.
like,
It's 11 episodes.
yeah,
Please
it's
watch
11.
It.
And,
It's 11 episodes.
Oh
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a weird art style, but the music is fantastic. The characters are amazing, and
The animation is really good.
the animation is really good. Like the motion of everything is fantastic. And this episode that we're talking about is right in the middle. So like even if you were like, I don't know if I feel like watching the whole thing because 11 episodes, that's a lot. Just get to episode 6. You will be so completely sold.
Yep.
It's coming up on Christmas time.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah.
Cychronia, there's a series I can't remember the name of where a therapist finds and consults the various superheroes and supervillains of his world. He has a breakthrough with the Superman
XP?
who realizes he's trying to save the world to deal with the guilt of failing to save his father, and so he stops saving people. Oof.
Whoa.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, though. I'd love to check that out. One of the things that Ping Pong kind of showcases that's, I would say, a little bit more kind of focused on in a different sports anime that really kind of brings into this, because Ping Pong is a 1v1 kind of dynamic.
Right.
But Ping Pong does have the team focus with regards to how you have to figure out a way to balance out the fact that you are growing, but your team might be holding you back or something like that.
Sure, yeah, the people you play with, train with, and yep.
Is in Haikyuu, one of the shows that we are super excited to have back right now. And I am freaking out about the fact that I get to have new Haikyuu episodes where I can discuss with people. Haikyuu really covers this idea of selfishness and the idea of when you are passionate or excited about something, you can end up doing everything for the purpose of your passion and push other people away. Kageyama is like the perfect example of this throughout the series, but more recently, we've been getting back around the focus of Hinata, who has more recently kind of had his moment of thinking, wait, am I being left behind by Kageyama? No, I'm gonna sneak into the training camp, and I'm gonna make this whole thing like something where I can be a part of it too. And you realize, oh, buddy, I understand what you're doing here, but you need to make sure you keep things in balance here. Otherwise, you're going to lose a little bit of touch with your team in that regard. And
exactly.
There is some awesome interactions. There are some awesome interactions that he has with people at the camp that keeps him humble, that keeps him willing to look at himself and go, where are you in some ways holding the team back? Where are you the one where you're not developing in a certain way? And I think that Haikyuu really holds these two lessons in balance. Devote yourself to the team. There are a group of people probably in your life, unless you're like this point I've been in that place before where you're like, I actually don't have any friends right now. Sorry guys, like it's I love anime and I love hanging out in my room and watching it, but I don't really have many friends. I feel you. I've been there. Absolutely. But devote yourself to the people or whoever the people are that you can, just to show, like, hey, I really do care. I really do care. But also, remember to grow yourself too.
Yep.
It's not just a thing of where you can only do one or the other. Where you have to be like, yeah, there's no I in teams, so everything is for the team. And I don't matter or anything like that.
Well, chain is only strong as its weakest link too,
Right.
Right.
So, like, I'm going to bring up Ultimate Frisbee because that's what I bring up when I talk about Haikyuu a lot.
Of course.
There are a lot of times in Ultimate Frisbee where I've had those moments where I'm not actually devoting myself to the team. I'm just wanting to have a good time playing Frisbee the way I like to play it. But then there's times when I'm realizing, oh crap, I have been giving so much to the team that, like, I had this really cool moment where there was a girl on our team, and she was like, hey, why didn't you send it to me? I was like, oh, I was trying to be a team player and, keep everything into short passes and stuff. And she had this, like, really, like, shocked look on her face, and she's like, wait, I'm a part of the team too.
Right.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Like, what is that supposed to mean?
I was in position, I was open,
Yeah, I was doing all of my parts right. And I was like, oh God, Oh wow. I messed up in that regard there. I was only basically keeping a certain aspect of the team in balance and not thinking about the entire team as a whole. So I think Haikyuu really does a good job of that. And I know we talk about passion and stuff, but I feel like passion is a trap for a lot of people that
Yes.
end up stumbling into areas that are out
Right.
of balance or
Yeah.
imbalanced.
Well,
as you
I
will.
mean, even taking like anime for instance, right? Or video games or whatever. Like there have been so many times where I've let it completely like absorb me, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's all I do. But then there isn't much balance with that. And while I might not mind it, in the immediate sense, because it's like, no, would I rather do this or watch another 12-episode anime? Anime, hands down. There is a cost to that. And it's easy to make that decision in the moment of like, yeah, I'll trade this for that, but eventually it adds up, and then you're like, oh wow, I've really taken a hit on this area of my life because of this.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I need to fix that.
Yeah.
Like just the other day, my Pathfinder group was gonna play,
Oh.
and I really like playing with that group. Right, playing Alchemist, it's a bunch of fun. I buff up the team, it's great. Like it's a lot of fun being a team player in that regard, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, I really miss my mom and dad.
Oh. Yeah.
I haven't seen them in a while.
Oh.
And not to be dramatic, but it's one of those things of like, that's right. I have a limited number of times that I'm going to hang out with them while they're, around, right? Because, eventually, like people always say, I wish I had more time. I wish I knew that, life is short and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm gonna fix this, right? And I did something that I've like never done really, because I love D&D so much. But I when I was there, I got into the VC and then I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna bow out of this one,
And did you say why?
Yeah, I said why, and I was like,
Oh.
here's the situation.
That's a good
basically.
group that they understood that.
I hope nothing goes wrong having the buff person not here, but if this person wants to pilot the character, I gotta go, and God, I'm so glad I made that decision. Like it was, yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, that's wonderful. I think one of the things that could also be on the negative side of passion with regards to this is when you dead focus onto one thing and you kind of absolve all other things as being important because this is the only thing that matters in my life right now. That is something I think we can really get into, especially if we feel like there's some kind of injustice done to us.
Sure.
Meaning that
yeah.
every other thing that comes into my life doesn't matter because I have to be absolved of the injustice done upon me before I can move on. And that's encapsulated very well in Thorfinn's journey.
Yes.
In Vinland Saga. Holy crap!
That thing
Vinland Saga.
The thing I said about revenge stories, it's because of this one.
Yeah.
God.
Oh my God, we are about to go off, y'all.
Vinland Saga does so many things so well because it does the action hype show thing well. It does the revenge story really well, right?
Yep.
And
does the historical fiction saga epic?
Yep.
kind
It
of
does
thing.
all of that stuff fantastically.
Yep.
And I would love to watch a show that was just one of those things,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And going into it, and at the start of everything and the stuff that happens, it's like, okay, yeah, no, I see the direction this is going. This is rather straightforward. I love it.
Yeah.
But the thing that made me love it was the fact that, and from the very beginning, it was made clear of, you don't have any enemies.
Oh my God.
The mark of a great man is not his ability to assert his dominance in combat and fight and kill and all that stuff. No,
Right.
It's having balance within yourself,
Yeah.
because that's what makes you truly untouchable. Well, in certain perspectives,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's what our boy needed to regain. Right.
Yeah. You need to remember that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that was really powerful about Vinland Saga is it starts off with just a family. And you get a lot of time to adjust to the fact that, hey, this isn't really a hype action show. It's about just some characters living life. And then just shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
It gets bad. It gets really bad. And there doesn't look to be any happy endings here.
Nope.
In fact, if anything, the happy ending from the main character's perspective
Is still a pretty bad ending.
it's a pretty bad ending.
Uh-huh.
It lends to things just getting even worse.
Yep.
To them being lost forever,
Right.
if you will.
Because and this is one of the things that I love about it so much, and I love how the first season ends and everything, because it's not just about having balance, it's about realizing that you're out of balance. And oftentimes when you realize you're out of balance, that's when sort of the rubber band snaps, right? And,
Right.
And in a lot of cases that itself can cause more trouble, because then you have to face the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
And that can and almost always is hard, right?
Oh, it's painful as hell.
Painful as hell. So you want to make sure that you can survive that, right? But it's the ripping off of the Band-Aid. You know, it's the thing that needs to happen, and it hurts.
Oh my god.
But if you can do it, then it's not that is not your darkest time.
No.
That is the Rohirrim charging over the hill, right? Like that.
Dad!
Right, exactly. That is the best part.
Yep.
That
Oh
because
my god, when that episode happened, when that person beat the shit out of
oh sure,
Thorfinn,
yes, right.
and just basically like gave him all the answers, and Thorfinn didn't hear any of it.
Yeah.
He didn't hear any of it. That was one of the most painful moments because
Oh
I
my
think
God.
I think anyone watching that's realizing what's going on immediately gets transported back to that moment of your biggest regret and realizing,
Sure.
oh, I was given the answers. I did see the way out,
Right.
and I didn't choose it. I chose something else.
Sometimes that seesaw is so tilted that even when you start going the other way, it's too sloped and you can't get back up to the middle.
Yep. And you realize, oh, whoa, my instinct was to go up to the other side, but for some reason I just didn't do it. Why didn't I just do that?
Right.
And
yeah.
you can sit there forever in essentially a dungeon of your own mind, which I very much use beautifully in the story to have this character have a little bit of self-awareness and focus back in on what's important there. Yeah, regret is wisdom in disguise. Oh my
Ooh.
God,
I like it.
It's really good. It's tricky though, because what you choose to do with the regret really makes a huge difference as
Yes.
to what the regret's
Yes.
value
Oh,
is
man.
in your life. Let
Oh,
me
man.
tell you
Yeah.
what.
Regret with positive action is wonderful.
Regret
right?
with shame
Regret with shame.
is a killer.
That
It's killed.
yeah.
Oh my God, so many
That'll
people.
that'll put you in the mud and keep you there.
Yep.
And in a lot of cases, in the case of say Thorfinn, one of the reasons that I love it so much is because in the end, it's still something where he gets that bit of a helping hand from the outside.
Right.
Even when he's turned away all these helping hands that can help, give him that leg
Oh,
up.
so many.
Give him that boost so that maybe he can start figuring things out more on his own and find that balance within himself. Sometimes it's just a random thing that happens,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden,
You
Well-
start to maybe move in a different direction.
right. And sometimes the thing that makes you move in that different direction is a whole other kind of pain.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I will
But-
say that if those of you who have not seen Vinland Saga, the main reason you should see it is because the characters are so good.
And that
It's-
is
And that's just all I can say
Right.
without really going into the details.
and that's just one aspect, right?
That's just one
because you
aspect
can
of it.
go into it wanting an action show, wanting a revenge story or a
Wanting a grand
historical
epic.
You can get
You'll get
all
all
of
that,
those things
probably.
there. But the thing that really, really makes it as good as it is
Mm-hmm.
in my mind and in your mind is how it does the characters, because it handles them so well.
So well. So enough shilling of Vinland Saga.
Yeah.
One of the things that is, I would say, an overrunning theme, and we've saved this show for kind of one of the last ones here to bring up, because it kind of pervades all the themes that we brought up, because it's kind of the GOAT when coming into the idea of balance regarding anime in general, at least the ones that we've watched, and that's in Monogatari.
Yeah.
Monogatari is kind of the behemoth
Like
in the room when it comes to characters learning how to do balance,
Right.
and how to move when out of balance, and how to stay in some ways. in the place of imbalance so that you understand and accept that imbalance.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's not about just quickly jumping into balance so that you have a, like you said, a band-aid solution that makes everything just, everything's okay now.
Because the journey's important.
The journey is important.
The journey is where you learn how to balance that whole, I'm sorry for keep using this, how that seesaw moves, right?
Uh-huh.
You know? And like Monogatari, one, being so completely like dialogue, right? Like dialogue is pretty much the entire show.
Right.
And the fact that the mechanics are directly and without any like pretense
Yeah.
entirely about the characters
Yeah.
and that whole journey of finding balance. And for some of them, it's a shorter journey than others, right?
No
It's
journey
able
is
to
the
be-
same.
Yep, it's able to be done fairly quickly, you know, in just a few episodes. For some, it's the overarching story of the entire show.
Yeah.
Right?
For some of them, it's multiple arcs. Like
Yep.
some of them go through
Yep.
different stages of their balance journey and need different aspects to be brought up. And then sometimes you actually think you've saved them, but you haven't yet. You actually need to give them the tools by which they can save themselves.
Yes, indeed. And yes, Psychronia, that is a great point. Yes, Persona is another great game to use for balance purposes because it's also something that has mechanics that tie into that and whatnot, and it's wonderful and great. But
awesome.
I will
It's
I will
awesome.
keep that light for the sake of
For
Caleb.
the sake of me, thank
Yeah.
you. Yes. One of the things that I would say that Monogatari really exemplifies, like within the whole balance journey specifically, is that it's not as much about the results. And this is something
Yes.
that I would say really resonated with me when they got into specific characters' journeys because I understood them on this level of the journey versus the result a little bit more than some of the others. And that is that when you move towards balance, one of the things that is really important in fixing a problem is acknowledging that you have a problem. But that is
Sure.
a form of acceptance.
Right.
Before you can be vulnerable, you need to at the very least have some measure of self-acceptance. And there are a couple characters in the story who have a bit of issue with that.
Definitely.
A lot of them actually, I would say, handle this aspect rather well. But there's a key
Sure.
couple that don't really handle this part as well.
Nope.
And it was something that was really powerful for me to see, as having primarily my journey surrounding balance has been always about self-acceptance. Accepting who I am,
Yeah.
being okay with who I am, and then allowing myself to take the journey without getting to the destination as fast as possible.
Sure.
Being willing to make mistakes, being willing to not be, someone who knows exactly where I'm going. And it's just really powerful when Monogatari gets into the meat of it as the characters unveil their vulnerability in a really powerful way. There's a couple characters specifically who just go off, just absolutely just go off on like either a monologue or a tirade or just unleashing all their emotion that they've been holding back
Yep.
because they're now willing to go on the journey.
And well, yeah, that balancing, right,
Yes.
where the out of balance thing starts to come into balance is a wild ride. For many of them, it's a violent ride.
Yeah, you
because
could end up not just hurting yourself but others.
exactly.
And that's why in some ways it's probably one of the most scary things to have that journey be done in a way where you don't go on it gradually. Because if you go on it just suddenly all at once, it can be eruptive. It can be just a massive thing where your friends might not be even ready for that.
Sure.
It's something where it's just difficult. There's no easy answer too. That's the other thing I think that is handled pretty well in Monogatari, is that there are times where the answer is actually rather simple, but the journey getting there isn't.
Right.
And then there
Getting
are
to
other
the point where you can accept that simple answer. Yeah.
right. And then there are some times where the journey is actually kind of simple. It's just one step that needs to be focused on. And there you go. But then as for the actual answers as to what you do,
You might not have them.
you might not have them.
Yeah.
It might be something that, you need to figure that out yourself. And that
Yep.
hurts. That hurts sometimes
yeah.
where you're like, but no, I wanted you to do this with me, or I wanted
Sure.
you to maybe do this for me, but
That too. Yeah.
no.
Like
No.
one of my favorite things about Monogatari is that other than the characters just all being incredibly well written, is that because the characters are all also very different, there's the whole joke of like, who's best girl in Monogatari, and like every girl is best girl when she gets focused and things like that.
Unless
right?
you're talking about Kaiki, then Kaiki is actually best girl.
Indeed, right? But he doesn't have focus all the time is the thing. How can he be best girl if he's not on screen, But is the idea that whoever you are, you will probably have a character, at least one in Monogatari, where you're like, okay, their circumstances might be different than mine because after all, it does have the whole supernatural aspect to it. But their situation, their struggle, their particular way that they're either seeking balance or have lost balance or are regaining balance, I feel like I learned something from that.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, not just maybe how I interact with other people that might be kind of similar to the characters in Monogatari.
Yeah.
Or have similar struggles, rather. The characters are a bit colorful to say that there are probably
Dramatic,
people
if you
that are very similar to the characters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then I would say one of the things that, in kind of summarizing a lot of the stuff that we've talked about here, there's a lot of stories that are going to be focused on things in a hyper dramatic way, to where it's not really as realistic. It's not so cut and dry. It's not so easy. It's not so final once the thing is done. You don't achieve balance and then never lose it or something like that. And balance isn't even something that's so like defined that I'm basically repeating myself from stuff I said in the beginning, but it is a journey. And that's, I would say, where Monogatari just feels really relatable in that regard, is that you see the characters on different stages of the journey constantly, and even at times where they've had major victories, sometimes things go backwards, sometimes things get tough again, sometimes a new problem comes up that makes things go a whole different direction.
So now a lot of this is probably because, one, it was hands down just the best animated section of Monogatari because movies, and also two, I'm pretty sure
earlier things that we watched too.
Yes, one of the earlier things, so first impression kind of situation.
Yeah.
But also Shinobu is probably my favorite character in Monogatari.
Sure. Yeah.
I absolutely love the ending of Kizu.
Right.
With regards to how it resolves the situation between Araragi and Shinobu with the whole concept of balance, because it's not that their situation is solved or resolved, but it's rather that there has been an acceptance of the imbalances within themselves and their struggles to regain balance, in the fact that while they might not be able to do it, either one of them on their own, they are not alone. And as a result, they're able to find a balanced imbalance moving forward. And I absolutely love that. Like it.
It's one of those parts as well where you can look at it and realize, wow, a lot was covered here. But there's also a lot that they still have to go on a journey with together and figure out.
Because
especially
balance
when
isn't
you
a
go
destination.
Especially when you go and rewatch Bake and realize like how dysfunctional it is.
It still is after that, right? Yeah.
One of the things I would say that is rather good transition point here with regards to the idea of dysfunction being something where you can still find balance in the midst of it. A lot of things with regards to how maybe your parents saw balance was with regards to order and things being kept in a very specific order in that regard. But one of my favorite recent kind of Zen characters, if you will, in anime is Yang Wen Li from Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Cool.
And this is one that I think it was another good one to save for last, but for a different reason from Monogatari, is that I don't know how many people are actually really watching our Legend of the Galactic Heroes reactions, because they're the least popular ones we have. But
it's an old show.
It is an old show. It is a very long show, and it's a very like uniquely paced kind of show, in that it is sometimes very character focused and oftentimes really plot focused.
Sure.
So the amount of time you actually get on the characterization is sprinkled, if you will, throughout 40 episodes or something like that. And we haven't even finished the show, but Yang Wen Li has a very unique aspect with regards to balance. he is probably one of the most dysfunctional soldiers in the entire story.
Yes.
The actual like way in which he operates as a soldier is pretty awful.
Yeah.
As far as like, his peers and his superiors are concerned.
General conduct and,
Yes.
his room is messy and
Yes, he can barely wake up on time, and yet he's being given all this responsibility.
right.
There's so many things that are wrong in this character's personal life, and yet because of some specific passions, he ends up being put above, in some ways, what he's even capable of at times.
Yeah.
Because he's needed. And this is something that I think many of us have experienced at points. Maybe not for a long period of time, but it's that point where you're called or needed or requested of in some way that you do not feel you have the capacity of, but people see you as being needed in this state as well.
Uh-huh.
It's the time when your friend calls you at 1 a.m. and just really needs someone to talk to.
Sure.
It's the time when you basically have like, a person who you thought was like a complete like acquaintance, stranger, what have you, and they start just really, really engaging to become friends with you, and you're like, oh, I didn't know we were that close or something. It's where you can tell that there's this responsibility being asked of you, but you're like, look at me. I don't know if I can actually like meet the expectations of these people. And I think that there's this balance that Yang really has a good job in that, is that one, he doesn't take anything too seriously. He has a little bit of a doom and gloom, mentality with regards to certain things that are repeated in history. But in some ways, the fact that he is so laid back allows him to kind of look at things from a perspective that is less like afraid or panicky or less out of balance in other ways that a lot of the characters surrounding him are. It's almost a caricature thing with a lot of the other cast in the side that his faction is. They're like either incompetent, corrupt, just morally reprehensible. You just have all kinds of just
cockroaches,
just disgusting qualities about them. And yet, in some ways, this guy who can't figure out how to make breakfast for himself,
right,
is ending up being put in situations where he's having to save people like this.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, he's sort of the diamond in the rough, right? It's there are areas where he is definitely out of balance,
right?
And yet they're the things that people notice, but they're not necessarily the most important. And then there are the other people who are way out of balance, but the ways that they're out of balance are ways that people don't really notice, but they are most important.
Yes. So being out of balance is not the end of the world. This is why I kind of wanted to have this one be one of the last ones, is that Yang is out of balance in some very personal, important ways.
Oh yeah, a bit too much alcohol in that tea.
Yeah, he's going a bit of the way of the alcoholic, just little bit by little bit. And the fact that
understandably so with the pressure of his situation.
And Julian is, someone that he kind of needed in a lot of like specific things and stuff. And now they're separated and stuff. But he's still able to do so much for so many other people because of the way that areas of imbalance aren't just completely overtaking or consuming his life. Like we mentioned in the previous thing, where there's the idea that you can have some area of imbalance consume another part of your life, like the idea of separating professional and personal life in general. Yang is in some ways walking a really fine line, but it is something that basically gives him you've got it figured out. You're like the hero. Everything's
right.
You're a miracle worker.
Because he's managing to somehow, finagle that tightrope. People are like, "Wow, you're incredible," and he's like, "Well, hold on now. I am just barely managing to maintain balance, but." Yeah. He's still doing it. And in situations where a lot of other people failed horribly.
Yeah. So don't disqualify yourself from being able to, going all the way back to Iroh, being able to give of yourself to other people even when you're out of balance in some ways.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be something about your energy, passion, life, whatever that you bring to the table that other people might need. So Yeah.
And well said, Cthulhukin, that in addition to understanding yourself, you need to be understood, have that net that'll catch you, people that will offer you the perspective you can't see when you're spiraling down. Right.
Yep.
Because, again, when you lose balance, you can't just stop losing balance. Like
Yeah,
okay, maybe
yeah.
you can
just stop being depressed. Why?
Right.
Why don't you do that? Yeah.
Again, it's the whole I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's the seesaw thing. If you're over here and it's tilting like this, you can try and move over this way, but there's still more weight on this side than there is on that side. It's not just going to reset itself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, highly recommend checking out Legend of the Galactic Heroes. One, if you like the idea of any kind of a space epic, space opera kind of grand story in that regard,
it's
but also having a cast of pretty well-rounded, mature characters. This is probably one of the things that's weird about Legend of the Galactic Heroes with recommending to it. You can feel the era that it was in, and yet there are things that will be discussed in there that you'll be like, whoa, this transcends whatever
this is ahead of
era.
its time if it were to come out now.
Yeah, it's still
yeah,
it's still super relevant in a lot of the topics that it brings up. But
Yep.
yeah, highly recommend Legend of the Galactic Heroes. If not for all that stuff, there's a great, wonderful character named Yang Wenli that I highly recommend you get to know, because he is a sarcastic, lazy,
He's a good boy.
good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love him so much.
Well,
He's a fantastic character.
And Legend as a show has a huge ensemble cast, which you are just a bit of a fan of.
I'm a bit of a fan of that.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah. In terms of stories in general, I think that's about most of the ones we wanted to talk about. But I'd love to hear some insights that you guys have with regards to specific anime. Like, what are some of those anime where the lessons of balance that they brought up in there were ones that really resonated with you? I'm really curious about that. Holy Land, the story is about a high school student who is bullied throughout his middle school life. He ends up on the streets, and we follow him as he struggles to find his place in the world. Ooh, that sounds cool.
Oh,
Sounds awesome.
One of the other ones that is a favorite of mine is with regards to a lot of Ghibli movies.
Oh, okay.
So Ghibli
just in
movies,
general?
yeah, just in general, like
Oh, okay.
because a lot of Ghibli movies sort of have the same spin, take, whatever. Something like Princess Mononoke, for instance. The idea of like the balance between people and nature.
Oh, sure.
That's something that I feel like is a lot more one-sided in Western media, right?
Yeah.
Because it's sort of the showing the problems of mankind with the relations with nature.
Oh, yeah.
But making
yeah.
it more be of a thing of like nature's good, but people are bad and don't have a sort of a place within it. And one of the things that I think really made Princess Mononoke stand out for me and for a lot of other people, I'm guessing, is this idea that there was a balance between the two. Now the balance got disrupted, right? It got out of balance on both sides at different points in the movie, and that needed to be fixed. But there was a balance that could be had, right? Amidst all of the industrialization and everything, there was the giving of the jobs to the people that needed work and were, saved from bad situations. And then there's also the destroying of the forests and all of that stuff, and all the other lives that were affected negatively as a result of the actions of, I forget her name, the lady with the guns, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. March Comes In Like a Lion. Yeah. How did March Comes In Like a Lion resonate with you? That's a really good show. Yeah. Beastars. Oh yeah, Beastars for sure.
Yes.
What was some of the stuff in Beastars that resonated with you, Dr. Women Respecter? Perkins 885. Honestly, One Punch Man is a really good look at how imbalance can lead to depression. Totally.
Oh sure, yeah. Because
Totally.
it's even just from a mechanics like video game type of perspective, Saitama is not at all balanced, right? As a character.
Right.
But then it's no, it's not about being the strongest, right? Because he has that covered. It's how do I get balance in these other areas of my life?
Totally. Oh, Mari Marim, yes, Mob Psycho, balancing honing your strengths versus working on your flaws, all with the help of others. Also, the idea that people can change, especially if not alone. Absolutely. That was one of the things that I really, really disliked about a lot of the philosophies that were pushed on me as I grew up. They would either hyper-focus on, you either entirely work on your flaws and you don't focus on your strength until you figure out your flaws, or you don't even focus on your flaws. Just focus on your strengths and ignore your flaws. I feel like both of those are just missing the point in general. Is that, yeah, some might lead to more productivity in the workplace or something, or one might lead to you generally being a more like nice person or something. I don't know, but like both aspects are going to be giving you pressure in your life. So just acknowledge the fact and accept the fact that both areas are important. And then as you have the energy and the time, give to each one as you can. But yeah,
Everything in moderation, including moderation, kind of a thing.
exactly. I love seeing Killua find himself rooting for him throughout Hunter x
Yes.
Hunter, in many ways feeling bad that Gon is the person he chose to latch onto, someone who wasn't really capable of reciprocating his feelings.
Right.
That is a really good point. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
there are times when we are in relationships that are imbalanced, and it's not that it's that person's fault. It's just we're not good at communicating what we need to other people.
Right. In a lot of ways with Killua and Gon, I feel like it was something where Killua was in such a bad place when Gon found him that Gon being so out of balance was actually perfect for Killua because
Right.
it was able to compensate, right?
Yeah.
And then as Killua started to change and grow, then it became something where he had to be the balance for Gon.
Yeah.
Right? Where Gon is out of balance. How can I help try and pull him back?
Right.
You know.
But is that your responsibility?
But is that your responsibility? And when it
it's
comes right
not.
down to it, it's not, right? And you want to help him because he's your friend and everything. But
but
there
if they're
are
not going to ask for help.
Yep.
It's one of those things where I think that this isn't even really I need to be really careful here because I personally don't fully believe in what I'm saying here.
Okay.
Like listen to what I'm saying
right.
here is that there are times where people need your help and they're not going to ask for it and you should give them your help anyway. But denoting whether or not it's your responsibility to help them, that's where it gets iffy.
Sure.
Because there are times where, yeah, it might be your responsibility, but I can't really make that judgment call. I can never make that judgment call. I will know, or I have to trust myself in some ways that I will know when it's my responsibility or not.
Right.
And that's something that can get into some really tough stuff in general. Because I remember multiple times where I knew I could do something, but when it went into should, that's where it got weird. So what I did was I helped the person. I did what I knew how to do. And I provided at the very least some tools to help the person. I don't know how much it helped. I don't know. And I think that's part of the other aspect of this is you're not responsible to know necessarily how much your help helps.
Right.
Like to see the results. Because in some ways there are a lot of people that are on journeys where they just need patience from people. It's not about the results, it's about the fact that you're there with them on the journey.
Right.
And I think that that is what Killua did super well, is that he was there with Gon on the journey.
Yep,
Even
through
when
it all.
Gon
Yeah.
pushed him away, Killua was there for him at the big moment. And both big moments in some ways. And
Right.
that's what's really important. But I love their relationship in the story. It's really, it's so tragic and beautiful. I love it.
Also, just as an encouragement, if you have people in your life that can be that kind of net for you and you for them,
Right.
let them know that they are one of those people for you.
Yeah.
So that basically give them the permission to say, hey, if you see something in me, right, and you're like, hey, I think maybe I should help, that, you are giving them the permission to go to you in that kind of vulnerable place, or request or in some way sort of demand that vulnerability from you,
Yeah.
When they bring that kind of stuff up. Because that can be really helpful. Because a lot of times people don't know, and people don't want to necessarily bring stuff like that up because, well, just going there, just talking about that that is a vulnerable thing to do, right? It might not be as clear cut as, say FMAB, where it's the if I go off the deep end, shoot me, but like having someone where it's the I trust you
Right.
in ways that I don't trust many people. So if it seems like, I need help with something, let me know.
Cthulhu-kun bringing up Mushishi had a profound impact on you, helped you develop a much needed ability to truly introspect that helps me keep balanced right now. That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard wonderful things about that show. Not an anime, and not sure if you mentioned in the beginning. Yes, we did actually, because I joined a bit late. But both Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender in the chakras training for the Avatar state, and Korra in the book Balance are also great portrayals of balance or lack of it. For
Yes.
sure. It's so iffy. Beastars is interesting to me. It's a story of finding balance in a society where it's difficult to do so.
Sure.
Certain characters aren't happy with who they are, and some characters are overly proud of the species they are born as. Seeing the characters get more comfortable with who they are is pretty much the equivalent of finding balance in the cruel world they lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very great point there, Dr. Women Respecter. Yeah, I think that Beastars is also a little bit of a common, not common, it is a little bit of a take on how society demands that you fit in, which isn't necessarily
Sure.
balance. All it is basically being complementary. And what I think about complementary is, you know, the mathematical like formula for when you're trying to determine if an angle is complementary, basically if it equals up to 180 degrees in total.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm fitting into this specific groove there, so the whole is not out of balance. But that's not necessarily your responsibility
Right.
to
Yeah.
fit in that regard.
That can
there
work.
are some that are, pretty extreme in that regard, but on the internal level, that's less of a cut and dry
Right.
thing there.
It works a lot better within individuals where they can have that kind of relationship balance established. Whereas, within some massive group, it's like, okay, but group might not care about the one person that does that one vital role because it's just not recognized or appreciated.
Yeah. You should always assume your actions are helping in some way. When you are trying your very best to make someone feel better, but they don't, ask yourself why they aren't doing worse.
Sure.
Whoa, that's a unique way of looking at it. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever specifically looked at it that way.
I don't think I have. Yeah.
But it is something that's really interesting to bring up, because I remember times when I was a lot younger, I was a little bit more active in seeking out and trying to be like a helpful person for those that were struggling with specific stuff, because I had just come out of some like really, really crazy depression around the ages of like 17 and 18 and 19. Probably actually closer down to like 15 to 19. And around the age of like 20 or so, I was like really trying to be that kind of person and stuff. And I had all this boundless energy in that regard. And I never really looked at it that way, but I think my past self would have been helped by thinking
Hearing
about
that?
it from that perspective of like, I don't know if I'm helping this person, but it's like, oh, no.
Probably not hurting.
It's probably not hurting.
Yeah.
And at the very least, it's nice to have that kind of thing of, hey, do you have things or people that kind of give you an extra reason to wake up in the morning?
Yeah.
Really, like, let those people know that. Like, I think that's really vulnerable, so you don't have to do that. But, I mean, if it's a thing, you don't really have to tell them. They won't know. It'd be like, thank you, Haikyuu,
Right.
I mean, I do that sometimes with other people where we're like, just sometimes it's just good to know that Haikyuu exists, stuff like that. But that's cool. It's cool. You came from just watching our latest Haikyuu reaction? Oh, awesome, Nivan. Yeah.
Great.
I believe content creators such as yourselves help a lot of people by doing this. High can be all the difference it takes to make a person's day better. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about. That's awesome.
And thank you for saying that. It's nice to hear that us doing stuff like this can maybe help in some way along those sorts of lines,
Yeah.
Because it's for me personally, it's easy to take the things that we do for granted because we've sort of always had it in a lot of ways. Like talking about stories and things like
Right.
that was sort of something that we always did, right? And it was something that was always very precious to me.
Yeah.
But because it's familiar, I feel like I don't hold it in high enough regard a lot of the time.
Sure.
So hearing stuff like that,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it definitely moves my heart a lot as well. So thanks for saying that. I think that not to get like really like like heart tugging here or anything like that, but I think there's a lot of times where we don't tell. I posted something on Twitter about this a while ago, and it was that I was thinking about content creators in general who are kind of suffering in silence.
Oh, okay.
And it was something where I was wanting to basically find ways to let them know that I deeply cared not just about their content, but about them as a person, and really just wanted to encourage them and stuff. And it's something that I think that that's just something that's just in my DNA in general. Is I want to be a complementary force in just the
Yeah.
just the world in general.
Life's hard enough as it is.
Right, life's hard
Yeah.
enough as it is, and we've all been through shit and stuff. But I feel like with regards to balance, there are times where we have a little bit more. We have a little bit more that day.
Right.
And I feel like we don't necessarily save or treasure or appreciate those moments enough so that when we are out of balance and we're lacking, we're in that moment of like things are just tough right now.
We don't remember those other
We
times.
don't remember those other times. So
Yep.
I really want to take times like this to really treasure them and let people know that are in my immediate vicinity that, hey, I really care about you. I really do appreciate and treasure you, even though I might not know you or anything like that. And I'm not trying to develop some kind of parasocial relationship over the internet or something like that. It's just letting you know that, hey, you're valued, you're seen, you matter. And yeah, I'm just another person out there going on my own journey, struggling and stuff like that. And I just wanted to, let you know that that's something that's, I don't know,
Yeah.
something I wanted to share.
And
But, yeah.
I think sort of my last sort of, I don't know, thing to add on this topic of balance is that, and the reason why I love that it's covered so much in anime is because a lot of the times with stories, because it makes for a better story often, you have a singular endpoint and then the story's done, right? The story's done. The person, went on their journey of growth or whatever. They did the thing. They slew the dragon. They brought back the boon, whatever it is. That's the story.
Yeah.
Open, shut.
Yep.
But that's not life.
Yeah, it
Life
really
doesn't
doesn't.
work that way.
But it doesn't work that way.
It's either a story that, begins when we're born and finishes when we die, or it's a bunch of little stories that are all
Right.
strung together, a bunch of little triumphs and victories and losses and wins and all of that stuff along the way. And then the sum total of that is the human experience, right? So
Sure.
having stories that focus on that less open shut, concrete, this and not that aspect of life and our journey as people, I really appreciate, because for myself, I can often get stuck in a situation where I wish that I was further along than I was. I wish I didn't have, I wish I wasn't struggling with this thing anymore. I wish I'd beaten it already. I wish I'd, whatever, right? As opposed to finding that balance of being on that journey, right?
Being
And
patient with yourself, accepting
exactly,
who you
yeah.
are and
yeah.
where you're at right now. Yeah.
So, yeah, I love
it's
anime.
Yeah, anime's awesome. Oh, thanks for the message, Mari Mari, about Haikyuu. Yeah. Haikyuu has some really cool stuff about the focus on how the characters live different lives, and there's no just one correct way to do it, especially how it goes with regards to kind of the wholesome positivity in the show as well. Yeah, it's good stuff. Did you guys mention Robin's inability to even allow herself to live until that moment because she was alone for so much time? Shows the importance of having friends or just people who can be there for you, even if it's just simple acts of kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one to bring up, Miguel. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
It's
really
those no
good
big
stuff.
deal things that matter the most.
Urmeli saying, I often find your streams and videos very helpful because your words make me think about many things within my life and rethink some of my own views and struggles. Oh, well,
Thank
that's
you.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Glad
That
to help.
Means a lot. Yeah. It's sweet. Sometimes a small confident comment or kind action can make my day. So I do my best to do that for others if possible. The world can be harsh enough already. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like stuff like this is especially good to bring up just to remind ourselves of in, say, as crazy as a year as this year has been, because because of reasons separated from others in a lot of ways that we're maybe not as used to. Even if, say, a lot of us are probably more introverted than most of the population, hence anime and things like that.
Right.
It still takes its toll. And
Yeah.
and remembering that, this too shall pass, and that that even if we aren't physically connecting with people in the way we might have done before, that doesn't mean we're alone, you know, and that doesn't mean there aren't other people out there that we can look to help, you know, balance us, give us that extra boost in the journey of balance.
Totally.
So
Yeah, good stuff, bro. As someone whose life has been in constant change and flux since 2018, this was good to hear. Oh, thanks, Perkins.
Thanks, Perkins.
85. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. Keep on keeping on, buddy. Jacob and Caleb, I apologize for my English, but I would like to ask something. Have you guys checked out the Monogatari light novel? I believe that someone from your Discord has already said, but the Kizu Monogatari narrative ends up being a little different from the movie since we followed Aragi's narration for 300 plus pages.
yes,
Jacob has checked that out.
So I haven't gone through and like read, you know, all the light novels up till where we're at,
Right.
but yes, I read I read up through Mayoi Snail in Bake, and then I read Kizu, and especially with Kizu, I think it works incredibly well because Kizu is sort of the most standalone of like Monogatari, you know, of the parts in Monogatari.
Yeah.
And I like, because I read it, like that's probably one of the other reasons that's my favorite part in Monogatari.
Sure.
Probably really want to rewatch the movies sometime soon.
Movies are really good. I rewatched the
Second one.
second one. Yeah, the second one's my favorite.
Yeah,
for
I mean the
sure.
second one is just so good.
It's just so good.
I feel like the third one might like not get appreciated enough though because the second one is so good.
The third one has that crazy animation though. Like the third one has that insanely good animation, but also the good music as well. Anime manga has helped me in many ways in getting out of my creative slump. It helped me a lot and practice a lot in storytelling and writing in general. I enjoy listening to your post episode discussion how you pick apart episodes. Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Nevin.
Yeah, appreciate it. Guys, we're gonna be wrapping things up now. We were at 69 viewers. Nice. But yeah. Hope you all are doing well.
Yeah, take care of yourselves
And if you're not, just you got this. You got this. It's
Yep.
gonna be okay.
right.
So, yeah. Streams. We got streams this week, y'all. 3
Yes,
p.m.
indeed, we
Pacific
do.
time. Tuesday, One Piece dramatic manga reading.
Indeed.
And that will be tomorrow. So hope to see you there for that. I have started a new game, Hades, on Wednesdays and Fridays. There's a highlight up on YouTube, so check that out. It's a really, really fun, super giant story game that is also a top-down isometric roguelike action game. Super fun.
Oh,
Showed
man.
it to Jacob.
I
Jacob
am-
full on like beat it
I'm obsessed.
apparently.
Well-
like in like 2 or 3 days.
I haven't 100%ed it, but yeah, I'm officially obsessed. God, the game loop is so much fun.
It was hilarious to be like, hey, Jacob, you got to check out this game, Hades. Next day, Jacob's like, so yeah, I've played like a whole bunch of it. I've unlocked all the weapons, It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm like, what the heck?
I've logged too many hours on that game.
And then you are playing on Thursdays.
So I'm playing a game called Persona 4 Golden. You may have heard of it.
Yeah.
But if you, balance, if you want to go into a bit more of that in ways that we can't necessarily go into too much in detail here because Caleb hasn't played it, but whether it's balancing schedules, balancing relationships, or balancing yourself, it's a great game. I mean, come on, it's awesome, and I'm having a ton of fun with it. So
Yeah. Remember, all these streams 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on our Twitch channel. So leave a follow to stay up to date and all that.
Yes.
If you sub, you can then get access to our private Discord, or you can chat with us in the community there about all this other stuff in general. So check that out by syncing your Twitch and Discord accounts up, and see maybe if Bezos can give you a Twitch Prime, maybe maybe something or other there. Also, check out our VOD channel, !VOD in chat. Check that out on previous streams, and !BL for Jacob's book.
that's right. I wrote a book. It's sci-fi. Battle Lines is what it's called. It's got a team of six young people going to save the world and everything but complications and stuff, and it's great. If you want to check it out, it's on Amazon. The link's in chat.
But take care, y'all. See you tomorrow. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb,
I'm Jacob.
and we'll see you all
Next time.
That was a good podcast. That was really fun.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that
guys,
was.
for showing up. That was really exciting. Yeah.
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 Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, this is a neat game. One day later, I am level 128.
Basically,
Oh my god.
basically, it's like, oh, I have 8,000 darkness saved up.
Really?
Yeah.
You just run out of things to spend it on or something?
No, I mean, sorry, not saved up, not saved up.
Oh.
Spent, like
Spent.
total earned.
Ah,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Yes.
oh man.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You better never stop advertising it.
Oh, definitely not. It's like a baby. You have to raise that thing for a good 20 years before it's
actually
fully out and on
appreciated.
its own. Yeah. Right.
Oh my god. Yes. Yeah. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah. Hopefully
Stay
you'll,
safe out there.
You'll find balance, like the characters do by the end of the story.
Oh, there you go. Segue. Yes, at the very end.